Oh my, let's just did breaking news. No more bullshit. No more bullshit.
No bullshit.
August 7th, 2020, No Bullshit News Hour. Today we're going to talk about COVID, crime, and cash. We had to reconfigure it because we were going to have Little Steven from the E Street Band, right, from The Sopranos, from Sirius XM, but I think maybe next week we're going to redo that. So today we're going to have Joel Kurth, managing editor of Bridge Magazine. That is the tightest news organization in Michigan. Really proud to have him on here. I'm going to talk about politics, COVID, the governor, vice presidential race, etc. And we have citizen government watchdog, former DPD officer John Bennett, who knows more about cops and crime in the city. These are the two big things going on in Michigan, COVID and crime. We'll talk a little bit about Gilbert's cash deal and Duggan, the serial killer house, the demolition bond. Detroit Red takes it to the streets. But first, let me remind you all, as always, No Bullshit News Hour is brought to you by American Coney Island, Detroit's oldest family-run restaurant and birthplace of the famous Detroit Coney. Well, fuck this, look.
Whoa.
Times are tough. Times are tough with these restaurants. You can get the Coney kit. You don't have to go into the restaurant. Get a dozen dogs, all the fixings, chili, mustard, and medallion onions delivered to your door, all 50 states. Go to AmericanConeyIsland.com or do come around at the corner of Michigan and Lafayette, downtown, the big, beautiful red, white, and blue building. As always, AmericanConeyIsland.com. My favorite, and maybe next week as well, we'll have Ali from Lafayette, Coney Island. So we'll try to set this Coney War straight. And also, ADR Consultants. Remember, if you're a construction outfit doing business in Michigan, how do you navigate the bureaucracy? How do you keep to the rules, grow your company, and keep their fucking hands out of your pockets? How do you do that, Joel? How do you do that, sir? You call Barry Ellentuck at ADR Consultants, honest, ethical, smart, 248-318-9424 for a consultation. I have hired them about some neighborhood problems I'm having with my government. ADR Consultants are experts in procurement, government compliance, information technology, and property management. Get the job done right, on time, on budget. ADR Consultants, 248-318-9424. Go with the ADR for your company, municipality, or law enforcement agency. We have other sponsors that we will welcome in the show later. Let's introduce Joel Kurth, discussions about the governor, the vice presidential race, Michigan, by going first to the now infamous interview, Donald Trump and Axios reporter John Swan talking about COVID in the United States and our reaction to it. Let's roll that tape. This is
because we are so much better at testing than any other country in the world. We show more cases.
The figure I look at is death. And death is going up now. Okay, and it's 1,000 a day.
If you look at death...
Yeah, it's going up again.
Let's look.
Daily death.
Take a look at some of these charts.
I'd love to.
We're going to look.
Let's look.
And if you look at death...
Yeah, it's started to go up again.
One. Well, right here, the United States is lowest in numerous categories. We're lower than the world.
Lower than the world?
Lower than
what is that?
Europe.
In what?
Look.
In what?
Take a look. Right here. Here's case death.
Oh, you're doing death as a proportion of cases. I'm talking about death as a proportion of population. That's where the US is really bad. Much worse than South Korea, Germany, etc.
You can't do that. You have
Why
to go,
can't I do that?
You have to go by you have to go by where look, here is the United States. You have to go by the cases. The cases
Why
are
not
dead.
as a proportion of population?
When we have somebody, what it says is when you have somebody that has where there's a case, the people that live from those cases.
It's surely a relevant statistic to say if the US has X population and X percentage of death of that population versus South Korea.
You have to go by the cases.
Well, look at South Korea, for example. 51 million population, 300 deaths. It's like, it's crazy compared to
that.
I cut it, dude. Okay.
You think they're fake?
What do you make of that, Karen?
I don't know, Charlie. I just it's disappointing to think that this is the leader of our free world. He continues to do what he always does, and it doesn't leave us any better off.
What is that? Is that the long crew again?
Yes. I'm sorry.
Oh,
it's the only time they can ever do it, apparently.
Oh,
I got to take it after 5 months of no lawn service due to the shutdown. Whenever they can come, I'm going to take it. They'll be through in a second, so I'm going to mute myself until they're done. But I can hear you, and if I need to respond, I will.
Well, Mark, your thoughts on it before we go to Joel?
Oh, it was one of the most entertaining interviews, I think, probably for the wrong reasons in Trump's case. His playing with the facts and the figures, although I will give him some credit in that he did sit down and get challenged, which we don't always see, our politicians sit down and get challenged by the media.
You know why? Because he looked like a dumbass. And no offense. Look, anybody that's a Trump supporter, that's cool. But he looked like a dumbass, and he doesn't have a handle on it. He wanted the reporter to go along with him, and the reporter wouldn't do it because Swan's too smart. So, Joel, my brother,
my man,
you're Bridge Magazine. You're the managing editor of Michigan's newspaper of the year, 2 years running. Have you gotten an interview? 4?
You just all up 4, yeah.
4 years running. Very well done. Go to bridgemagazine.com. I mean, they're there. They're on it. So a little verbose. A little
bit. You can stop reading anytime.
No, I even pay you.
It's bridgemi.com. Well, I mean, the articles. You don't have to read down to the bottom.
You don't.
I was a shit show with Trump. No question.
Now, let me put it to you this way. Everybody that listens to this show knows governor's dodging me. We know what we're talking about. Doesn't want to answer it. She doesn't want to submit like Swan did. Have you, your organization, gotten that sit down, that one-on-one with the governor?
Not in a while. It's been, she likes, somehow she found the time to talk to the New York Times over every day for 2 months for their New York Times Magazine article. We've tried to get her. You get 15 minutes here, 10 minutes here. I mean, her press conference this week, for instance, she had a Zoom press conference, and all the questions were submitted in advance, which, the whole Lansing press corps was howling over because it basically gave her the chance to review questions before they're asked and hand pick the ones she wanted. So I do think that accessibility is an issue with her.
Yes. And I talked to Paul Egan. Hey, Paul, I know you're listening, brother. That's a heavyweight too, right? He's up in Lansing for the Free Press. I said, have you talked to Whitmer? And he says, fuck no. So Bridge, Egan, LeDuff, we know what we're talking about. Why not? Because here's what I said. I got a call from Axios yesterday because that's what happens when anything turns to Michigan. The National Press Corps calls me. They know me, right? And they're going to do the story on Whitmer. And what I quickly realize is the only thing they know is what they read on Google, which is all these blowjobs. And they're blowjobs, bro. So, for instance, Bridge Magazine, when I was doing hey, people are dying, I started doing a story on the wards of the state dying and we're not tracking them. I started Googling. You guys were asking for data. Where's the data? And it took you and me to even get them to acknowledge that we had a problem in the nursing homes. Do you think? Go ahead.
No, you go ahead. The data is a mess. I mean, in fairness, the data is a mess everywhere. I mean, but it's particularly bad in Michigan, and the nursing home policy, I think, has been problematic, from Jump Street in Michigan. I will say though that as this virus spreads west, Michigan's not looking as much of an outlier as it was a month and a half ago. It's in the top 10 for deaths. It's in the top 10 for population. And I think what we're starting to see with COVID is that it kills a bunch of dead people, and where are the dead people? It's like Willie Sutton in the banks. You rob the banks because that's where the money is. COVID's killing people in nursing homes because that's where the old people are.
Right. So I'm looking at it like this, though. Illinois or New York, Pennsylvania, we're getting a total of not just nursing homes. And for everybody listening, that's basically they're getting Medicaid and Medicare. There's a federal mandate there and licensure. But we have about 5,000 facilities where old people live, and we're not tracking them at all. Other states are doing it.
There's still no data. I mean, they've been talking for weeks about release. I mean, the nursing homes, I think there's 500, something like that.
About that.
Yeah, there's not a lot of quote unquote nursing homes. Most of the old people live in long-term care facilities.
Yes.
So know that, and there's no data whatsoever in Michigan on the deaths in long-term care facilities, which is a big problem because now we have Michigan's got like 6,500 deaths or something like that. About a third are in nursing homes, but we have no idea how many are in long-term care facilities. And that's, the suspicion is that's really where the action is, right?
There's no doubt. And then if you read these executive orders, they included, the original order included these facilities. So when I'm sitting with the governor, I'm going to ask her just what Swan asked her. Like, Trump said, you got to go by deaths per case, right? And Swan didn't want to do it. But let's do that, Governor, because Michigan is number one in the country still, even with the spread out west, deaths per cases. Why? Number two, Michigan is number 6 in deaths per capita, which is what Swan wanted, right? That's exactly what she needs to answer. Now, if you do this, here, look at this, Joel. Here's my mad scribblings. Right here, see these?
Yeah, I follow them totally.
Yeah, I went like this. The top 5 states for deaths. New York, New Jersey, Connecticut, Rhode Island, and Massachusetts, right? I put all those together on the eastern seaboard. They all touch each other. It's like 40 million people in a size about as big as Michigan. So they had about 4 times, what was it again here? Let me look here.
4 times the population, right? Isn't 2 times?
They have four about the same size, 4 times the population, but 2.5 times more deaths. You understand what I'm saying? They all border each other, and it's a cluster. Mm-hmm. Michigan's got 1 border.
So what are we? We're at like 65 per 100,000 right now, right?
Yes.
Which is an outlier. I mean, Florida, you're hearing a lot about Florida, is 36 per 100,000. Texas, 26. California, 25. Mm-hmm. And you're right, most of the cluster is on the eastern seaboard. I think that the governor is going to say in her defense is that check back to me at the end of September.
Well, again, that's great, but here's the public policy portion of it. A bipartisan bill goes through both houses of the legislature in Michigan saying absolutely separate healthy old people from sick old people in the buildings. Forget your wards and everything. And she vetoes it. And the reason she vetoed it is why, brother?
She claimed her reasons publicly. She said it was bad public policy. I think, a lot of people in Lansing could say that she did not. It was obstinance. I think she's already backtracked on her nursing home policy. She had one policy in the beginning of the crisis that set up these regional hubs that she backtracked on, and it was kind of a bit of a disaster. Now she's saying that nursing homes have to accept patients when they return. But she's saying that there's never been any evidence that they've actually been forced to. But, I think it's political, right? She doesn't want to look like she's retreating. And she wants to make it look like that. This is all Pete Lucido, the sponsor of the bill, the guy who's been accused of sexual harassment. He's a big Republican, and it's sort of he's become the champion of this. And I think that it's a very predictable partisan fight in Lansing, which we're seeing all too much of.
Disgusts me.
I think it's more obstinance than political because she didn't. There were 17 Democrats that were for it. She didn't even bother negotiating. And the other thing she said is that she said that there was this false premise that those isolation units, which Charlie has talked about a ton, and we've talked to people that have worked in nursing homes. She said there's this premise that they don't work, but we know they don't work. Talk to anybody in there, and they're fearful of it. So it's just she doesn't want to be wrong, when she could have worked with the legislature to maybe craft a better bill if she felt the bill was bad.
Well, let's look at this too. Her whole thing has been about auditioning for
Sure.
this vice presidential seat, a nomination rather. And she has seen that she can say or do something that has very little substance, very little impact, and it generates public interest and public support. So there's no need for her to delve down to actually negotiate with any of the Democrats or come up with something that actually makes sense. She can say something. She's delivering rather than policy. It's in sound bites. And that has carried her to this point. So maybe she's feeling, why do anything any differently now?
I think in her first term, she felt like she tried to do some negotiations with Republicans on various issues with roads. It didn't work. What we're seeing this year is her basically just sticking to her guns, and the Republicans say it's governing by fiat, but there's not a lot of obviously cooperation. And Garen, I think you're right. I think that it sounds easier, it looks easier if it's just one policy and you stick with it. Because frankly, there's not a lot of people out there who are really giving a whole shit about home policy, and no one's really looking at it.
It's a goddamn parlor game, Joel. It's like, look, you got a nice look at Trump, right? And it's all about anything but this guy. Okay, fine. But I still belong to old people, as do you, as do other people. She's done some really good things. I believe that. I really do. She's done some strong, tough things. But you haven't done enough on this issue. So just get off of it and do what's right. You know it, and I know it, and Paul knows it. And national media going to come in and nobody knows it. No, fix the shit.
On balance, I think that her performance with COVID as the crisis continues is looking a little bit better. It looked pretty wobbly in the beginning. It looked like basically she was looking south, and whatever Devine did, she would do the next day. Yeah. But I do think that she's not, she's stubborn. And I also think that she doesn't always explain what the hell her reasoning is for a lot of this stuff. And why would she? If you have the New York Times writing 10,000 word hagiography, then why would you? I mean, why would you?
Because we fucking live here. It's like when John Bennett comes on, the chief of police got the same treatment. Now look what's happening. The mayor got the same treatment. Now look what's happening. Quicken Loan got the same treatment, and the company's worth half of what they were saying it was, because Bridge Magazine matters. Because whatever you think of the press, ain't nobody else getting paid or taking the time to make sense of it, except for John Bennett. I don't know why he's doing it, because he gives a shit. Fuck the New York Times.
This is a diatribe, but I do think that this is, gets with bigger issue about people's media consumptions anymore. Is that there's not, there used to be the governors would have to answer to the Saginaw Newses and the Lansing State Journals, and now they can just go straight over that to the national media, who isn't paying as much attention because they know that the readers aren't really following it as closely as they used to.
Joel, I got a question. She, after the whole deal with her husband trying to get the boat out early under the order, she kind of stopped doing national interviews. And I was talking to Charlie about this. It seems like the last week and a half, she's popped up doing more and more of those. And then I saw an article yesterday that she's back in the vice presidential candidate fold. Do you think she has a legitimate chance to be the vice presidential candidate?
No.
Why?
Right. That's what I said, Mark. God damn it. You had to echo it.
Well, I think it's going to be an African-American woman for very good reasons. I think that Trump is going to have a really hard time winning Michigan. So I don't think that there's a lot of I think it's a red herring. I don't think that she would carry a lot of weight. I'll say one thing. She's a hell of a campaigner, though. And she is, she's very personable. She's very relatable. She's got a whole soccer mom, let's go sit down and have a beer thing, which is fantastic. You do want to have a beer with her because she's very charismatic. But I just don't think that she would, if it was her against Kamala Harris, I don't see, is not a question.
Here's what I know about the media. It is 90% liberal. I mean, even studies will show you 90% of them vote Democratic. There is a very deep dislike for Trump amongst the media and amongst a lot of people, quite frankly. So right now it's a cakewalk. But once you get in that crucible, once they start taking a look at you, oh man, no, that soccer mom shit is not going to hold. Like, you see what they did to Kamala Harris during the debates, right? She's going to get her gas tax whooping. She's going to get her lack of experience whooping. She's going to get her husband whooping. She's going to get the COVID whooping. And my talk with people in Washington, Axios, New York Times, is Trump doesn't get along with Harris, but this COVID thing really puts Whitmer over here in a box because they don't want anybody with COVID stink on them, because that's what they're tagging Trump with.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe. I don't know. What do you think? I don't think that that there's a disconnect. I don't think that the general public gives as much of a shit about that stuff as the media. So I think obviously we've seen this with Trump, that you can write all you want, but his 43% number does not budge. So I think even though you may have substantive looks in the national press about Whitmer, I'm not sure it would budge the public perception of her.
No, but then you got to look at, if they get the seat and Biden fucking keels over, what do we got there, right?
Right. But I think at the end of the day, it's that, I mean, didn't I read that Trump was reconsidering ads in Michigan, or I had even pulled them already? I mean, I think he's looking elsewhere in the electoral map.
I think so too. But you know, remembering the Hillary debacle, the Democrats aren't dumb this time. They're going to keep the pot boiling here, keep her in the news, and you make sure they've got Michigan buttoned down. You lose Michigan, you got a problem.
Yes, sir.
All right. Okay, so here, about commingling people. Let me give you an executive order. You guys remember the Wayne County Jail? Another big, bad COVID cluster.
Oh, yeah.
200 deputies sick. The two main doctors die. The commander of the maximum security dies. One of the corporals dies. Remember that sheriff's deputies also are bailiffs at the courthouse. So this is from 3 weeks ago, from Timothy Kenny, the chief judge of the Third Judicial Circuit. Executive order. It is ordered. During the COVID-19 pandemic, the Wayne County Sheriff's deputies assigned to the Third Circuit Court and the Wayne County Probate Court shall not work overtime, weekends, temporary reassignments, or other assignments at the Wayne County Jail. Meaning, the chief judge does not want commingling of staff in a COVID cluster and the courthouse. So if it good enough for the courts and the judge, why isn't it good enough for my grandmother?
I don't know, man.
Okay. That's it? That's what you got?
I don't know. I mean, or they're supposed to be in separate wards, right? In the nursing homes?
Yeah, but we all now know that it's getting spread by the staff, and they don't have separate staff, even though the government...
I think what we're seeing nationally, though, is that what's happening is that it's just wherever there's COVID, it's going to get into these nursing homes.
So separate them like they did in Florida and Texas, because they have less people dying in them. I'm not going to say it stops it.
Florida and Texas are creeping up, though, too, aren't they?
Of course they are. They're huge. We're creeping up again. We got 500 more deaths in the last couple of weeks. Where are they coming from? Give me the data. Answer Bridge Magazine's FOIAs. What are you working on?
We're working on all kinds of stuff.
when was the last time?
It's Friday.
Joel, when was the last time that Bridge asked for a one-on-one with the governor? Is that?
I'd be honest. I mean, I'd have to check in with my staff. Jonathan Osting and Riley Began are the Capitol reporters there, and I know that I can't tell you specifically. I know that it's been hard. We've had opportunities, but it's it's like 10 minutes here, 10 minutes there. And there's nothing with any sort of regularity.
Before she switched to her Zoom answer questions before they start process, which is ridiculous and not going to win her any favors, was Bridge...
I think they are changing, I'll say, in her credit.
Oh, they backtracked on that?
There was a lot of a hubbub, and they are going to look at other ways to do it. I don't know that I don't think there's been a press conference since then, but they said that they're going to make some changes.
Well, it's a joke.
She probably won't do any press conferences.
It's a joke. Like, it was a stupid move because the media is such lapdogs. Nobody was, you can't do much at a press conference. You know what I mean?
No.
It's those hard one-on-ones that even Snyder did with me during Flint.
Well, yeah, and I will say that I think so there were some questions that she did not answer at that press conference that people were, again, kind of speaking to some of these inconsistencies that drive Republicans and other people who are paying attention is really freaking batty. Why she allowed the casinos to open.
Mm-hmm.
Boom.
Which is clearly, I mean, she's not going to say it, but come on,
obvious.
Detroit needs the money. Yep. That's why she's allowing.
So yeah, that's it, dude. And that's nice segue, because that was next on my list here to ask you. But it's so crass because so many of us have lost careers and businesses and probably properties coming next to protect old people. And we know who goes to the casinos.
Right.
The addicted old people. So I got a call from a couple of people that work in there. Okay, here's the deal. Saturday at the Motor City Casino, this past Saturday, they all had to get tested. Okay, you get your COVID test. They go to MGM or Mack Avenue and they get their test. Monday, there's a required on-campus meeting amongst the staff inside Motor City, except they didn't get the results back.
Oh boy!
And then Tuesday, it turns out a guy's not allowed back in because he's got COVID. Now, does everybody got to be quarantined for 14 days? Now I'm getting hysterical calls from the floor. There's no plexiglass. They're not wiping down the slot machines. People are doing it. Where's my mask? They got the mask down here and they're walking around smoking. And I'm like, there's my mother in that fucking, but what are you doing? So I want you to send a reporter there just to get here's what Bridge I would recommend.
I would not set foot in that. You have to put me in a one of those HVAC suits, man. What are those called? The ghillie suit or whatever.
That's why he said send a reporter.
Look, I got a guy. I got a guy to do it.
Money, right? Isn't it, Karen? What casinos are their revenue source for Detroit? Third biggest?
Second.
Yeah, it's a second. Yeah, it's huge.
20%.
But I mean, the thing about it is that, in my opinion, we should have had some type of consistent federal protocol for this from the start. Everybody, and even this at the state level, they're leaving it up to everybody else to interpret and apply what is being advised. We talk about masks. We talk about, everything is so haphazard. I anticipate another shutdown. I think more people are going to get sick as we enter into the flu season. And until we have some type of consistent protocol and requirement, we're not going to get a handle on it. We're not. We're not.
I do think, and that's, as much as we give Whitmer a hard time, I do think, you're right. And I think that everyone's making this up as they go along. And there's no national standard, and people are trying to turn around battleships on the fly or whatever the cliche is.
Well, we're in the middle. We're in the middle of the scientific process right now. I mean, data keeps changing. I just wonder what would happen to her political if she said, "Hey, the reason the casinos are open is because the city needs the revenue."
Then just say that. People aren't stupid. People know that they're putting profit over people everywhere. So you close the restaurants and the bars, but you open the casinos. People were lined up out there at 5 o'clock in the morning to get in the casinos. But when you even talk about about how to wear a mask, you got people wearing gloves and they're cross-contaminating. We're in a cesspool and we're just
but you're stuck. You're stuck because everybody knows that's why it is, right? But then to say it is to create another Owasso and people storming the Capitol again. So I think it's just better to do it and then just not say anything. Well, everybody already knows.
It defeats her. It defeats her science over politics thing that she kept pushing early. You got to be an actuary with all the things as to what's an acceptable way of living.
Here's my only bitch. And again, these are, like Joel says, they're incredibly difficult jobs, from the governors to the president to county executives. Please, we know. But the casinos have been closed since April. You could have got in there, the Department of Health and Human Services, whatever, and started making sure the stuff got built, protocols, right? Being sure, having inspectors there. It's so fucking lazy. The bureaucracy is lazy. There's no reason it has to be like this. It's ad hoc. That's the problem.
Well, we got a committee to examine racism as a health hazard.
Well, you want to take that one, bro? I'll do it. Hold on. Racism and the medical care system. Let me think. Your father, Madam Governor, was the head of Blue Cross Blue Shield. Your patron is now the head of Blue Cross Blue Shield. I got it. You're a Democrat. Why don't we go to single payer and blow up the insurance companies? Why didn't you say that? There's your task force. We're going to single payer. Nope.
Charlie, I've said this before. These issues are not new. And I'm tired of people that are in positions that can and should be charging for change, acting like they're brand new. I mean, this is almost insulting, in my opinion.
Do you find it pandering?
Yeah, pandering, placating, whatever you want to call it. It's disingenuous. And let me say this. I like Gretchen. I met with her before she ran. I had great expectations. But, we ran on fixing the roads. I'm replacing stuff on cars left and right. I mean, nothing is happening. And Joel, you talked about, people going to the media. You got to remember now, too, with social media, everybody's an expert.
Right.
People hear something and they run with it and never take the time to do their homework or, kind of refresh their memory. We run with whatever's in front of us and to the disadvantage of all of us.
For sure.
That was profound.
Fucking great at this, Joel. Wow, you're fucking great. Wow. Okay, listen.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No,
if you need a reporter to hit the streets, we got Detroit Red, and we'll send him to the casino.
He'll go.
You want to share that story? We'll get him a scuba suit, and we'll send him in there.
That sounds terrific.
All right.
The thing is, to your point, Karen, I mean, nothing's being done. Nothing's being done anywhere politically.
No, it's not.
I mean, the reason she ran on fixing the roads was that's the low hanging fruit. That's supposed to be the one thing that people could kind of come along to. And then maybe you take one success and then you build another success. But I mean, we're at the point politically we cannot do a damn thing.
Well, we're not.
Why isn't it a surprise that when we have something really complicated like COVID, it's all getting fucked up?
Yeah, but everyone forgot about the roads getting fixed. So.
Because I haven't. Our roads are horrible. Whether they're county, city, state, they are what Joel just said, effed up. They are. And people, they tailgate you, so you're trying to avoid it's a mess.
And don't forget, during the Snyder years and Granholm, we had massive corporate tax cuts. Yeah. So when she promised to fix the roads, you didn't even go to the corporations to raise some money. You went to we're broke in Michigan, and you wanted to jack gas up 50 cents a gallon, and thank God you didn't, because who the fuck can afford it now? Because the $600 a week ran out.
Well, that's the problem. That's the problem with COVID too. Is that, I mean, for everything that we say, I mean, this is not a growth state. It's terrible to admit, but Michigan is a state that's in slow decline. Our people are old. We don't have as much money anymore. Our population is flat, and we're getting more people taking from the system by being old than we are people paying in new taxes. And it's not going to look real great in the next 25, 30 years.
Well, that's wonderful.
I want to ask, what is your take? You were keeping an eye on city government there for a while. What's your take on this administration and how things are panning out, the investment or lack thereof that you see in the city? What's happening? What's your take on that?
I think that Duggan started out like he always does, like pretty strong. And, there's a lot of question as to whether or not it was steak or sizzle. But I don't think there's been a lot going on the last second term. Has been uneventful.
He asked to be judged on the increase in population.
Right.
We're continuing to decline.
It's going to lose population. And I also think that, I mean, I've been surprised that the even the great singular accomplishment of rejuvenating downtown, really, I mean, if that is just only being judged on that, you venture like about a half block away from Gilbertville still, and it gets pretty dicey. Like, and it just doesn't seem like all that stuff has changed significantly, even from when Bing was around, or Kwame, or it hasn't changed a lot in 35 years. I mean, there's one real pocket there, but again, it's another city where it's tough. I mean, nobody wants to say, hey, let's manage decline. Your boss did, maybe not as eloquently as he should have. I would have advised against him calling the city a hellhole. But I mean, those conversations are the kind of conversations I think Detroit probably needs to have.
And it might be a little bit late, man, because there's no more blood in that turnip, right? If you
it's a lot easier to sell rejuvenation than manage decline.
If you take a look around Gilbertville, look at all the undone things with all the public money, the skyscraper, the future city, the book tower. So at this point, look, I'm going to do this, Joe, because we got John Bennett. We're going to talk about what's going on in the city and crime and all that. And that was awesome, dude. bridgemi.com?
Yes, sir.
If you're not reading it, you really should. I don't know anybody covering a minimum Lansing better than this organization. So thanks for doing it, bro.
It was a lot of fun.
Okay, we'll talk.
Thanks, Joel. See ya.
Right. Good to see you guys.
So you see, that's not just the No Bullshit News Hour. That is probably the most legitimate news organization, seeing things the same way. We just try to put a little flair to it because, right, it's kind of boring to sit on your toilet and read an article that's 30,000 words long.
I read the comments that people make, and we get a lot of emails and that kind of thing, and some people make reference like this is entertainment. Charlie puts in a lot of work to make sure that the homework is done, the research is done, and that the listeners and viewers and readers have factual, well-researched, accurate information to walk away with. This isn't, we do some stuff to try to make it palatable. I get that. We laugh sometimes to keep from crying. But this isn't entertainment. This isn't TMZ. This isn't to, amuse or to distract anybody from the realities that we all face every day.
Cool. I agree with that. But I also then agree, y'all listen out. I don't have the thing going by me, but no, it's also got to be interesting. Like there's the two rules in my journalism class. It's this. Number one, get it right. That's rule number one. It's unassailable. It can't be replaced by rule number two. But rule number two is don't be boring. Because I can sit in my outhouse. It's a very nice outhouse. I can sit in my outhouse and go off and do this show to nobody. It does no good if nobody hears. And remember, you out there, I respect you, Mark, Karen, Mannequin Joe. We respect our guests. We don't have to think alike.
Yeah.
You might even disagree, but put part of this into your equation. That's all it's about. It's a community talking, and we don't hate.
In regards to Whitmer, that's the problem. Overall, I think she's done an okay job considering, but she's got a major, major flaw, and it's the long-term care facilities. That is a major problem, and she won't admit it. She's stubborn.
And that's
I don't like seeing her follow almost kind of like the Mike Duggan thing. Like bring in the people that would otherwise criticize you. Let me give you a contract. Let me put you on a committee. Let me give you a job. Don't do that. I understand that that's politics, but we're at such a crucial point. Like Joel said, nothing has been done in so long, and we are looking at the impact and the results of that. We're just not in a position for that that playbook doesn't work anymore.
That's why I do not belong to a political party, because this is how they operate. It's about dividing up our tax money and not getting the shit done.
Amen.
Now, let me say this. We talked about the Motor City Casino a little bit and what I'm being told by the union and people that work there. That's owned by Chris Ilitch, Chris Ilitch's mom, technically.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Marion.
Still don't know how that worked, but okay.
It's crazy.
But Chris Ilitch owns the Detroit Tigers, and guess who sang the national anthem via Zoom on opening day?
Who?
Jose Feliciano. This is the most ripped off newscast in the goddamn universe. Jose Feliciano.
They haven't thought about him for how long?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Okay, number 2. This will get us into this. I want to tell you about Luke Nowacki. I want to put it to you in this way. Rocket, right? Quicken Loans, Gilbert basically had an initial public offering. So they wanted to sell 150 million shares of a private company for $22. The institutional investors, that's who gets the shot at it first, like the Teamsters, the Teachers Union, the pension funds. They weren't going to pay $22. They said, we'll pay 18. And instead of 150 million, there's no demand for that. There's 100 million. So when you do all the math, we heard Gilbert from Cranes, he was going to raise 4.2 million. From the filings, they wanted to raise 3.2 million. He raised 1.8 billion, not million, 1.8 billion. What this means to you is nothing, except if you're thinking about buying property in Detroit, well, he doesn't have all this money that the magazine said he's going to drop into the city. So my advice as your brother is sit and wait to see what property values do. Don't believe lapdog media. If you want to invest in the stock, if you need some advice in the stock, which I don't give, that's Luke Nowacki. Call Luke Nowacki if you want a prospectus, if you want an idea what's going on in Michigan or what the financial sector's down. Okay? So don't overreact. Get some real advice. You're paying somebody to give you real advice. It's not lapdog media. Luke Nowacki at Pinnacle Wealth, 248-663-4748. I have not spoken with him since the IPO, but I have talked to my guy at Morgan Stanley in New York, who's kind of laughing. But I'm just saying, good for Dan Gilbert. I'm glad for you, sir. 1.8 billion is a buttload of money. I hope you get well because you don't look well. You see him when they rang the bell?
I did see him.
What'd you think?
I had heard some things that seemed to match up with how he was struggling. It was quite sad. I feel really bad for him. But yeah, I think it's maybe looked a little worse than what I think the general public knows.
You got to add that, like, again, man. Guy's a fantastically brilliant businessman.
Yeah.
I wish him well. I have to look out for my community. This is my interpretation of what's going on with the real estate down there. You heard Joel. And if you're wondering what to do with your money, again, Luke Nowacki at Pinnacle Wealth, 248-663-4748. Stocks, bonds, savings, your kid's college plan, right? Get advice and get a strategy. Luke Nowacki at Pinnacle Wealth, 248-663-4748. Hit it, Mark.
Securities and investment advisory services offered through Royal Alliance Associates Inc. Member FINRA SIPC. Royal Alliance Associates Inc. is separately owned, and other entities and or marketing names, products, or services referenced here are independent of Royal Alliance Associates Inc.
Yeah.
God, that's good.
Mark did that himself last week.
I know.
Oh, did you?
Only because I wasn't prepared. And
gee, Mark.
What? I'll out
I was trying to make
myself.
Charlie think we held everything down last week.
No. The best part of the
You guys
show
did
was Charlie
great.
calling in.
That's a great show.
Yeah, it was nice to hear from
broadcast.
John James. Oh, thank you.
It was an exclusive. I think that's the first interview I've ever heard John James give.
It was the first that a lot of people heard. Actually, I think he's only given interviews to Fox News. So this was, and we got a lot of feedback about people appreciating just hearing from him the first time. And he was appreciative of the opportunity. So, it worked both ways.
So now it's your turn, Peters.
Yeah, Peters.
Well, I have the call out, so it's up to them.
Okay, now let's turn to the city. Okay, this is John Bennett. He's going to join us. 20-year veteran of the Detroit Police Department, citizen government watchdog. Here's a guy, John Bennett, 2 N's, 2 T's. Follow him on Facebook. If you really want, is that right, John? Did I spell the name right?
Yes, you spelled it right. Yeah.
It's right there. If you really want to know what's going on with crime, the Detroit police, the politics of it, this guy's the number one in the state.
Oh, Lord.
Well, it's true, dude. And you wrote, you did a Facebook post which I read, and it was just an astute analysis. And then it got turned into a column in Deadline Detroit. Go there, deadlinedetroit.com. But go ahead and encapsulate, John, what that column said and what your outlook about the true picture of crime in Detroit is.
Well, look, we have a chief of police who's going on, he's over 7 years in place. Most chiefs' average lifespan is 3.5, 4 years. In the nearly, 7.5 years he's been here, we have not seen an improvement in crime at all. Detroit has been at the top of violent crime for as long as he's been here. Now, some people will say, well, what's the difference? We've always had crime, and that's true. The difference is you have a gentleman who's making $250,000 a year. He's been in this job 8 years nearly, and we haven't seen any improvement. And you also have a police department that's in chaos. You have racial unrest. You have a narcotics unit that's been busted twice by the feds. You have 70 plus police officers who've been indicted. So, for me, a person who lives in the city, we have crime, but the feel is different because I have the experience of being on the inside and being a resident of this community. And I watched him over the 7 years plus 7 years. And I actually gave him opportunity early on. But to hear the excuses time after time after time for everything that takes place, he never holds himself accountable for anything. It's just time out for that. And
you notice this? We got runaway crime. Okay. And so now we're going to blame COVID cabin fever, right? People are frustrated, and some George Floyd. But then again, if you look at the statistics, before the lockdown, murder was up 50%. During the lockdown months, if you compare it to last year, it's up 15% during lockdown. And after lockdown, the whole thing's up 33%. Mm-hmm. How is that successful?
No. It's amazing to me that he's able to remain in place with those kind of numbers. The mayor doesn't seem to be holding him accountable. Council is not holding he or the mayor accountable. So basically, he does what he wants to do. The media really doesn't hold him accountable other than certain entities like yourself. The love-in continues, and it's unfortunate because those of us who live in the city, we're the losers. We're on the losing end of this when you have an administration that's not held accountable for crime, and you can't even take your Corvette container to the curb without worrying about getting hit in the head. So where's the accountability?
John,
that's what I'm looking for. Where's the accountability?
What is one thing he's gotten wrong, specifically wrong?
One thing?
Yeah.
How much time do you have?
Well, any kind of tangible, like, I want to hear, specific things that he's gotten wrong.
Well, if you, from the inside, before I left, he approached me and asked me to chair a committee to look at, racial issues within the police department. He said, because I know you're the person who's going to tell me the truth. And at first I refused because I know how Chief Craig deals and how he goes about his doing what he does. So I did. I agreed to it. We sat down, 15 of us, and at the end of our 8-month process, we gave him 19 recommendations to fix what problems existed within the police department. To this date, nothing has been fixed. The racial problems, which average citizen is not aware of within the department, they're growing. So that's in the department. So let's bring it outside the department. Let's look at not having a strategy or plan for crime. Green light is not a plan for crime. Cute words and phrases don't solve the problem when you're talking about a city that has a violent crime rate that it does, when rapes are up, when shootings are up. So, there's a number of things across the board, I think, that he's done wrong. And the main one being not being accountable as a leader of the police department for not fixing the problems that were there when he came in. And as I said before, having a narcotics unit where the feds had to come in twice and raid your narcotics unit.
Let me try this. Let me try this.
A number of things.
Wait, let me try this, Karen. Let me try this.
Okay.
Let me do what I see, Mark. Okay. And by the way, 70 officers indicted. To be fair, I give due credit to the chief. Like rooting out corruption, good. Bad cops, get them out. I say that's something he's done very well. That's all due credit because that's fair, and that's what we want the public to know. Here's what I believe he hasn't done. Like John said, a gun strategy. There were special operations in this city designed to get guns off the street. He disbanded them and decided to go to respond to 911 calls, made them all patrol officers, right? So now you see so many guns on the street. Next thing he did wrong is he was on the cover of NRA magazine telling everybody to get a fucking gun. Now he's complaining everybody's got a gun and they're acting surly to the police. The carousel of command staff. You're in, you're out, you're in, you're out. Between the 11th and 12th precinct, there's been, I think, 13 commanders in 7 years. So there's nobody that has a strategy and knows where the bodies are buried. When he started, he did those Operation So-and-so, Operation Seersucker, Operation Take Back the Streets, and he'd shut a block down. And we in the media would all buy it. But we never followed up to what they would get. They would get a bag of weed, a BB gun, and a stolen car. They didn't work. What about Sunday Fun Day? Remember 2 weeks ago we were doing the police sponsored drag racing shit?
Yeah.
Well, what happened 24 hours later? Some fucking idiot took 3 people out. That kind of shit. The fake crime numbers. People say this to me. Well, I don't know what you expect one man to do. There's always been crime in Detroit. I go, well, by that reasoning, we shouldn't have any police. And back when he was claiming crime was going down, and everybody that listens to this program knows they were bullshit numbers, he was taking credit. That's why he's been able to hang out. But now we know it's not true. The emperor were wearing those clothes. No clothes. Sorry, Karen, go.
You've served, John, under several police chiefs. Did anybody get anything right? And if so, who and what was it?
In my career, to be quite honest, there were 10 different police chiefs. 10.
Wow.
I served under 10 police chiefs and 6 mayors. In my history, I would say different chiefs had different strategies and how they went about addressing various crimes or what was taking place during that time. Under Benny Napoleon, we may have had a greater gang issue that, was addressed directly, or, various units that went out and addressed those crime concerns in that neighborhood specifically, directly, immediately. Yes, we all had crime, always had crime, but there's under previous chiefs, there seemed to be a more of a robust strategy when we had issues. We knew beyond the shadow of a doubt that leadership was going to come to the table with a plan and a strategy to address whatever the concerns were. Under this leadership, if there's something that takes place, we roll out a strategy such as, check yourself. What does check yourself do for the criminal street?
Check yourself.
It's nice,
yeah,
but it
check
doesn't
yourself.
solve
That was a big
problem.
one we did, John. Yeah, remember that? Like, instead of shooting people, check yourself before you shoot people.
So that doesn't help the officers to get their job done, and it doesn't make citizens feel real good about where we're going as a city in terms of addressing our problems. Now, he's very good at being the face of the police department. If you want to credit him with anything, he's a political guy. He's very good at being the face, and he rubs people, the right way. They feel good about the chief. But at the end of the day, what's being solved? Are we better off? Are we addressing the concerns? And 7.5 years in, come on, that's a lifetime for a chief of police, and at $250,000 a year. I want more from that that person in that role.
And do you put that on the chief to do something different, or the mayor for his lack of accountability for results out of the police department?
Oh, absolutely. The mayor is not without accountability. I mean, when after the emergency manager left, and we all knew we had the oversight committee out of Lansing, and the only way for the city to get out from under that is we had to balance the budget for 3 straight years in the city of Detroit. The mayor balanced the budget of the city on the backs of the citizens. We still can't keep up with the attrition in the police department. They tell us, oh, we're hiring, but you're losing officers at a large number, at a great number. So the mayor is not without responsibility for where we are with the crime in the city and other things that are going on in the city too. Absolutely, he's not. And yes, the chief works for him and he's going to be lockstep with him. But at the end of the day, whatever your resources are as a chief of police, you got to work within that box and do the best that you can to make it work. He's not doing that.
And you got to go. I mean, you got to go move on. You got to make a dent. I think you said it well, which is, hey, come back Detroit, right? Crime's going down. We're in the top 2 all the time. So that must mean everybody's making some progress. Why aren't we making more progress? That's absolutely what I think. I think the corpse is naked here now. We now really see what it is, and it's time to look real hard. You, Joel Kurth, anybody being serious about this, we're trying to manage sort of a wind down and get into a point where we can balance this state, and we're so far out of whack. Take this one. Speaking of the programs and whatnot, we just welcome a bunch of federal officers in. Thank you, President Trump. First of all, we didn't want you in. Now we do want you in, but everybody seems to forget way back in, January.
Those pre-COVID days.
Yeah, the confidential informant for the Detroit Police Department DEA task force went on a killing spree, killed 6 people. The chief blamed it on the feds and kicked the DEA out. Now everybody seems to have forgot that. Now we're kumbaya and we're hugging. I mean, it's PR, bro.
It's all PR, and nothing's getting done. It was 2019 when Barr announced, along with the chief and the mayor, that the feds were coming here and they were going to partner and helping get guns off the street and yada 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 yada. And what did we get? What happened? So it's all PR.
Last one for you. This is a sort of non sequitur. The Black Lives Matter protesters, most of whom are white. What did you make? It was after we went off there. It was the week last time I was here, 2 days later. Okay. They were marching around Midtown protesting gentrification. So the white people were marching, that white people were living in the city. And when you talk to the white Black Lives Matter protesters, they say they live in the city. So I'm like, aren't you the gentry here? Yeah. Anybody notice that?
Yeah.
The guy that didn't know that McNichols was 6 Mile? Him?
That was another day. Did you notice that, John? What are you making of that?
You know what, Charlie? I kind of go with John Lewis on this, Congressman John Lewis. Let them march, let them protest. It's kind of their time. Don't be violent. Don't tear anything up. But the part that I don't think people picked up on, and I mentioned this to somebody else, is that Black Lives protesters who are now predominantly white are protesting the killing of an unarmed Black man. The Black Lives protesters who are predominantly white, who are armed and organized and throwing things at the police, are protesting the killing of an unarmed Black man. But in the midst of that, you have white privilege, because none of those white protesters are even under a threat of being harmed, but they're organized and they're armed and they're trying to hurt the police, but there's no threat to them. But they're demonstrating because the killing of an unarmed Black man. I think it's the irony in that is so great, but there's no harm coming to them. I don't mind them protesting. That's fine. I don't agree with the defund the police and all that. Reimagine, reorganize, reallocate, fine. And march as much as you want, but don't be violent. Don't loot, don't destroy. But even in the midst of all of that, you have white privilege that exists because they're trying to harm the police in some cases, but they're not they're not threatened by being killed in the street.
My suggestion is be consistent, right? Keep the message consistent. That's what gentrification. Come on, guys.
But these are also people, in my opinion, some, not all, that as a result of being locked up for 5 months, they want to resonate with something. I do believe that people want to connect with some social, movement, because I've heard a few of them being interviewed. They have no idea of what they're out there marching for or the realities of what they say they are championing for. They just don't. There's a severe disconnect. And I talk all the time about the white people with the Black Lives Matter t-shirts that don't speak to black people. Like, you got to pick one. You can't, something has to match.
And listen, you can't tell me you want to defund the police in underserved communities like mine. Don't, you're not going to, you're not going to defund it. I need more, not less.
Oh, true. Wow. Right. Wow. And if you talk to Detroiters, specifically black Detroiters, they know this. If you held a referendum, they wouldn't go for this. No. Right? The complaint's been for years. I call, nobody comes. You take a fucking report. That's not helping my kid. Because of all black lives, the children's lives matter the most, John. Would you agree?
Absolutely.
Fucking A. Can we do something?
The issue is, in the police department, is who you're hiring. If you want to look at police departments, reallocate that money toward your hiring practices. And then once you hire them, reallocate that money toward training and internal affairs so you can identify the problem and get rid of that problem before it ends up putting a knee on somebody's neck.
I agree with that.
We'll leave it at that, John. That's beautiful.
Look at us, John. We agree.
Can I? Oh, yeah. See, back when John, I got to say this before we go. John, when he was a cop, what was the name of your blog, John?
Ended up being Detroit Uncovered. It started out as Fire Jerry O.
Yeah, the old chief of police. And here's a cop speaking his mind. And, man, you had to go to court, didn't you?
Yeah, I did.
You won.
Right.
But you were right. And Karen was in the administration at the time, so you two.
John would tear me a new one. I am not kidding. So, but it's all good.
We kind of came together later on in a indirect way.
I have to say this, John, and we say this all the time. I don't have a problem when people disagree with me. I don't have a problem with people criticizing me. It was always respectful. So I have no issue with that, and I don't ever take it personally. So Charlie and I talk about when he and I butted heads. I mean, that's part of who we are and what we do. We're supposed to raise issues. If everybody agreed, then everything would be as disingenuous as the things we talk about. So much love and respect for you. I certainly appreciate you being here. It's all good.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Thank
How lovely. All right. Thank you, Johnny.
All right.
Now I'll say this for you. Listen, I don't comment. I'm just going to say this. Mm-hmm. Listen, local media, television. This guy's a natural. Mm-hmm. Fucking hire this guy. He knows. The guy can write. The guy, look at him. Look at him right there. He got a good look to him. He's experienced. He's got sources. Call him up.
Man, I've been trying to get out of this town for a while. No, I'm sorry.
Yeah, well, I got a call from the West Coast. Same thing, but I'm not going. I'm not going.
Hey, don't give up, Don't give up. That's the issue. You, John, you, Charlie, me, Mark, we cannot give up. I walk through Detroit now. I am extremely frustrated on so many levels, but we can't give up. I mean, there are people that you may not know about that are depending on you to speak the truth, to uncover the truth, and then to share the truth, and then a share solution. I did get a question I want to ask you, John, before you go. One of our viewers asked, if you could pick a chief nationally from anywhere, who would that chief be?
Good question.
I think current people that I know a little bit about. I think Elvin Barron, who went to Southfield, left DPD, went to Southfield, is good at what he does. I think though she's had some ups and downs in Dallas, I think Renee Hall, who also left here, is quality. So yeah, those are the two.
Would you ever take the job, John?
No, I would not. No.
I don't think you want the job now. I don't think you do.
No, man, listen. They got some hills to climb, and they need the type of leader. They need a younger, energetic person with some ideas to lead that organization.
I've got my thoughts, but I'm going to leave them at that because I don't want to advocate for anybody. So we'll leave it at John. All right, brother. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks guys, for having me.
Take care.
All right.
Bye.
Let me just take this real quick minute, tell you about Hall Financial, who wants you to know that mortgage rates are at an all-time low. All-time low. Home values are up. That's why so many people are refinancing right now. Lower your monthly payments and put dough in your pocket. Seriously. What are you going to do? Speculate on stock or what you actually own? Figure out a way to lower your note or get some money to fix the house that you're going to live in, right? This is the best way to do it. If you're in the market for a new home, remember, Hall Financial Services is the fastest in the business. Get your mortgage in half the time of their competitors. That's why they have more than 1,500 five-star reviews. And remember, COVID's ticking up again. Appraisals can be done without someone stepping foot inside your house. Call 248-308-5000 or go to davidhallmortgage.com, 248-308-5000, davidhallmortgage.com. Tell them Charlie sent you. Remember, NMLS number 1467435. They're the deal.
Rates dropped again, Charlie.
Fuck. Every week.
Mm-hmm.
They dropped again. What does that sign behind you say? All I can see is danger. What does that say at the top of your left shoulder?
Danger, walk on the other side of the ship. So I'm right on Lake Huron in my shack. We're preparing the funeral pyre for my brother and light him on fire and send him out. And the freighters come by. They're out there in the shipping lanes. And this just drifted up on shore one day.
Oh, wow. That's pretty cool.
I tell my daughter, this has been your people's for 1,000 years. Love it. And last week.
The coolest stuff, Charlie.
What's that?
You have the coolest stuff, like the stuff in your office, and so you just have the coolest stuff.
Yeah, well, you know what? I mean, I don't buy things. Just I keep things that are meaningful, you know. So,
I know, but they're cool.
My coolest stuff is my daughter.
Well, she's cool too.
She is.
And before we started, everyone missed out on the Petoskey Stone lesson, which was actually very informative.
Yeah, do that again.
This is a Petoskey stone. Okay, that is ancient coral. You can see the hexagons in there, rubbed smooth by eons, 350 million years of waves. So when you lick it, it comes alive. Therefore, it's your grandparents, you know, that's the native thought. When they return to water, you put water on them, they come back alive. And then the steam that's made from the heat on these rocks carries your prayers to the Creator. Remember, Michigan used to be on the equator. This was the biggest coral reef in the world, or one of them. So there is global warming, but the earth moves. The earth doesn't care if people are here or not. You know, so if you want to hang around, take care of it.
People are continuing to send you their prayers, their condolences to you and your family for your loss. So, I mean, they've been doing that pretty much all today, as well as last week while you were out.
And just remember, I mean, time is short here. Live it well and love one another and demand more, right? We can do better than this. There's no doubt. So now I'd like to do this. This is what I wrote before I went away last week, you know, to bear. And by the way, Governor, we did not listen to you. We did have 50 people at that service, and that's what we're going to do. And we distance and we wore our masks, and you should do that and have respect for each other, right? Even if you think it's bullshit, maybe I don't. But if old people get to go to the casino, then we get to bury our dead. You can see the frustration. That's all I'm going to say about it.
Mm-hmm.
Makes sense.
So let's get to Detroit. Money, the serial killer house. Remember that one? Remember that guy? That house
still there.
Incredibly still stands. Yep. It's a symbol of all of it. It's a mockery. The quiet neglect rained down from those on high. The House of Horrors is the abandoned residence at Mack and Mount Elliott on Detroit's east side, where the serial killer D'Angelo Martin did his work. Remember him? Last year, a woman escaped after he snatched her up and dragged her inside and tried to rape her. 2 days, he cut her too. 2 days later, a decomposing woman was found in the basement. Martin currently awaits trial for murder of 4 women. But the house still stands, and it's a sign to those who live around there that they don't matter. Their children don't matter. Not really, not much, and it wouldn't go on in your neighborhood. The city owns the house. In fact, the city and its land bank own much of the fetid buildings and garbage-strewn lots around the area. The mayor promised a year ago to tear down the death house, but not before taking the crass opportunity at a press conference to push a $250 million bond proposal promising to tear down homes so serial killers couldn't do their nasty again. And so a year passes. The trees grow tall again. Alkies sleep on the porch again. Junkies shoot droppers of joy. Wild dogs roam among the wildflowers, and the backyard is an open-air outhouse in a neighborhood. Children live there. Not my children, not your children, Andrew Jones' children, who's got a 13-year-old daughter, and he says, of course I worry someone's going to snatch her up and drag her in there. It's fucked up that it's still there, but I don't know the reason, and I should tell you all. I looked it up. There are 40 registered sex offenders in a mile of that house with his 13-year-old daughter. Black Lives Matter protesters marched by that house 2 months ago, followed by the media, but none of them seem to put it all together. This is where the misery lies. Ask the neighbors, because they're filled with rage, because they do matter. Oscar Ellerby says it's like they want it to keep happening. He hopes to open a modest barbecue stand in the vacant garage next to the serial killer house. But wild animals and the stench of human waste does little for one's appetite. You know what he said to me? They took all that demolition money and it disappeared. Millions. And now the mayor wants millions more. Shit. And then you want to know what Jones said? Why don't they put that money in the schools? The schools were filthy before COVID. Why not put the money there and make them clean and safe? And remember, everybody, Detroit public schools are going back full time. The mayor has convinced the city council to place a $250 million property tax bond on the November ballot to fight blight, known as Proposal N. And remember, N is for neighborhoods. The proposal is a blank check for the mayor, who's already blown through $500 million for demolitions. He's torn down perhaps 20,000 structures and gotten himself 2 federal grand jury investigations. I called the federal prosecutors. They declined to provide information on the work of the grand juries or even their existence. Representatives of the demolition firms in Detroit, however, confirmed that federal agents and prosecutors are still active. So whatever that case may be, people around Mack and Mount Elliott believe the city should be dragged into court as an abusive slumlord. This is the real, people. This is what we're living through. At a vacant Lutheran parish house across the street from the serial killer house, the junkies go to work. The building is owned by the city. Next to that is a shuttered community center where kids play with sticks next to men drinking out of paper bags. The school district owns that building. And what about the apartment at the end of the block? Ellerby shouted to me, who's foaming mad by now. We keep asking, nothing. It ain't no better. And so I go over there. And no, it wasn't no better. The crumbling brick duplex the next block over was wide open, the windows blown out, the walls caving in, and the silhouette of a woman in a window frame injecting dope into her foot. The building is owned by the Detroit Land Bank. And yes, kids live next to it. Political leaders would have us all believe that the coronavirus is the instigator of the great American malaise. But come over here to the land of the lost at Mack and Mount Elliott, and you realize the virus is merely a peeping Tom, a deviant who's pulled back the shower curtain on American society. And what's behind the shower curtain? Something gaunt and sickly, infected with debt and crime, ineptitude, and racism. Take down the fucking house, is what Ellerby said to me. He called the mayor out by name. Why are we any different? And he's right, Karen. He's right. There's kids. If that 13-year-old can't do any better, if we can't do any better by her, what's that mean for our kids? Because they're adults together. We're going to come right back to this. Yes, Black Lives Matter. Yes, they're being ripped off. Yes, they need help. And yes, they want you to consider their lives because we're all living together. We're family. As much as I got to put my brother out there and put him on fire and wish him well, you're all my family.
We got to break the cycle, Charlie.
It's just a fucking ripoff.
Yeah, but we got to break the cycle. I mean, when you, and I told Mark, I come down, Verner, Mag, Mount Elliott sometimes. I mean, and I see the house. I'm like, Charlie's been talking about this house for a long time and it's still standing. That environment, unfortunately, has become normalized for too many and especially too many children. That SHIT is not normal. It should not be normal. I mean, it's not. I mean, kids deserve better, but it's like we have to break that cycle. Like you said, kids grow up in that environment. They grow up to be adults that are still victims of that environment by no choice of their own.
And you know what? Look, a lot of people from the Grosse Points, take that route to work into the city. Ask yourself, it's become normal to you. It's infected you.
Let me tell you this, Charlie. I knew some people that lived in Grosse Pointe, and rather than like go straight down Jefferson or whatever, they wanted to turn down Buffet and they wanted to turn down these streets because they like to see the whole urban ruin thing. Mm-hmm. That's bullshit. And I'm going to say it just like that. This isn't a freaking zoo. You don't drive through the challenges or the perils of other people's lives because you find it exciting or because it's intriguing to you. If you aren't going to come through here and look and allow that to or to provide some more sensitivity to other people, then stay on Jefferson or stay on Lakeshore.
I say go through and learn.
Yeah, but I'm saying if you're not going to allow that to change how you see things and to help shape who you are and what you can do, this isn't a zoo. You don't drive through, quote unquote, the hood so you can, get some brownie points or some hood cred or street cred. That's not what this is for. It's not.
Andrew and Ellerby, if you guys met them, you'd like them. They're like men. They get it. Remember this too. Fuck it. It's the city. No. All the money we're given for these development projects, folks, comes from state taxpayers. A lot of it's coming out of your school district too. So if we're going to do that, who do we want to help?
That's
billionaires or nothing-heirs?
And it's not complicated, Charlie. This is not complicated. It doesn't require, another committee. It doesn't require some 10-year study. It doesn't require, it's common sense about what is right, about what makes a difference. Listen, what did Eugene say when he was on the show from New York, Mark? You remember when he said, listen to the people who are impacted by it. Ask them what makes a difference.
Good solution.
That's what I'm saying. Like you can't ask somebody who doesn't know and who doesn't care. And that's what we keep doing.
What a segue, because guess what? Comedian Detroit Red did.
What?
Detroit Red took it to the streets.
Okay.
All right,
what's up? This is your boy, comedian Detroit Red, and we hitting the streets of Detroit today to see if Detroiters really believe they should be giving Mike Duggan another $250 million to tear down abandoned and abated homes, such as this right here.
Okay, to be 100% honest, I'm not knowledgeable on this subject, so I really couldn't give any input.
Do you think we should give him $250 million more dollars?
No, I think you got to dig out what you got.
Do you think we should be giving him another $250 million to tear down abandoned and vacant houses?
If the money is going where it's supposed to be going.
I think that Duggan, he's a joke.
He did a couple of houses. He did a few things.
A lot of these houses, I don't know what the city's waiting on to tear down these houses because they're not going to get any tax money.
Do you think he did what he was supposed to with the first $500 million?
Nope.
Now let me ask you this: you from the neighborhood? How long has this house been sitting here like this, waiting to be torn down?
This house been here over 6 years,
and the city ain't even maintaining the.
No, more dump. It's like a regular dump site.
We got a lot of black houses in Detroit.
Let me ask you this now: do you ever have a concern that spots like this are creating places for people to get killed, raped, folks doing drugs and all that?
Definitely, this is a haven for a potential site for somebody to get raped or killed or dumped.
If you had one question to ask or say to Mike Duggan about this $250 million, what would you say?
How is it being spent?
How is the money being spent, Mike? That's what we want to know.
Boom.
Another great job. Yeah.
He's good. He is good. Hey, isn't that a commercial? He is good. He's good.
That's right.
Again, there's another guy with a little seasoning.
Yep.
He'd be awesome on the nightly news.
But he asks what people want to know. It's not prepared. They're not approved questions. He lives it. So he knows what he and his friends and his family talk about and want to know. So he's taking it and gathering that in a very, maybe seemingly unpolished, but a very raw and real capacity. You can't help but respect that.
I do respect it. And I think maybe, okay, we do Lansing and Detroit. Those are the two capital cities. But since Lieutenant Governor Garland Gilchrist II, I like to call him the Deuce, since he's now the face of racial reconciliation and all the blue ribbon panels and all that, maybe we should send Red to Garland's hometown, which isn't Detroit like they like to tell everybody. It's Farmington. So maybe we'll send Red to Farmington and have a look and see how things are done in Farmington.
Sounds like a plan, Charlie. We need a Detroit. Right. We got Detroit red. We need a Detroit blue. We want to, make sure we get a good balance.
we need like a Debbie red, white, and blue. We need some white chick from the trailer park or something.
No, not the trailer park. What? I think you need we need and I don't want to use this term. What were they calling all the middle-aged white women that?
I can't remember.
Me. I am none of those things.
You're a Karen.
You're a Karen. You're the Karen.
I'm a whole different definition.
They named it after you, Karen. Privileged white woman. Conservative privileged white woman. No, anyway, you're saying.
I don't even know, Charlie. Forget it.
Let's just pause a minute. I didn't mean to knock you off.
No, it's okay. No, I was laughing. I'm saying, we know how we tend to think about the average person, the person with no voice, the person, sometimes that loses hope. But I'd really like at some point to hear from the perspective of those people that I think are just completely disconnected from reality. Give me somebody that's that middle-aged conservative white person that drives down Jefferson and locks their doors when they catch a red light. I mean, that has no idea what's going on in a city that they claim to love and want to wear a T-shirt for. I mean, how do these people think?
Oh, so you mean you want to get somebody who's a buffoon and to show it?
Okay.
So anybody that wants to do that, please call. Right? So yourself to be anybody that might showing they're an asshole. Okay,
they don't think they are, though. They don't think they are.
I want you to drive. Hey, Karen, when you drive to Grosse Pointe, do you lock your doors?
Hell yeah. And I drive slow.
With your hands up here?
And I'll tell you this, I minimize those areas. I don't go to Livonia. There are a whole lot of places. I just don't go. There's nothing there for me. Now, sometimes I do go through Grosse Pointe. I go to Trader Joe's. I may go to, Smoothie King and take Lakeshore Drive. I like that drive. But yeah, I know not to speed. And, I'm looking to, you got to remember, Charlie, there are not every white person is all about equality. You got a lot of angry white people that are pissed that the conversation is even existing. And I don't need some psycho bamming on my window because I don't want to be in a pink and green jail. So
that's true. And, white people will say why is everybody black got to lean on me?
Exactly.
And thinking I'm a hater, and I'm not.
And I don't want to bear the brunt of that because I will be in trouble. So I don't want to bear the brunt of that. Let me just pay attention, and you don't look at me, and I won't look at you. And let me get my smoothie and go back to Detroit.
Get my fucking smoothie and go back to Detroit. So you get your smoothie in the burbs, and then you dump your garbage in Detroit. What are you, Bashara?
Yeah, that's what these people do. Charlie, I got to tell you this once. You know, I grew up on the east side, and I used to live down the street. I grew up from where the boat races were focused. And so we get tons of suburbanites in, and they, want to piss on the lawn and all that crap.
Hey, take it easy.
They did. But anyway, there was this car, and traffic was always, pretty heavy. So they threw this trash out of the car, and they kept going. So I got in the street, I picked up the trash, and I walked slowly down the middle of the street. I knocked on the window, and I said, hey, you drop this. And they were like, oh, my God, I didn't realize. I was like, yeah, you did realize it, and you wouldn't do this at home. Take your trash home and throw it away.
What was his name?
It was a white woman. Her name was probably
the trash you picked up that they threw out the car. What was his name? What was his name?
What was his name? Bob. It was Bob.
Speaking of Bob, hey, Shuttle Bar, you out there? How you doing, brother?
I know I miss Bob.
Yeah.
I've texted him a couple times.
Fucking Bob.
Yeah, we need him back.
I know. All right. Well, listen. That's all awesome. I got to prepare this pyre here. So
sending prayers, Charlie.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody, for listening. Like I said, I think we're gonna get little Stevie, man.
Yeah, that'd be great.
That'd be fucking great.
Mm-hmm.
In the meantime, remember, love each other, and we usually cut the song out on Facebook, but it's Mel Torme. You're gonna love it. Coming home. Thank y'all. Thanks, Mannequin.
I'm coming home now, right away. I'm coming home, baby, now. I'm sorry now I ever went away. Every night and day I go and stay. I'm coming home, baby.
Come on home.
Coming home, baby, now.
You know I'm waiting here for you.
I'm coming home now real soon.
You've been gone.
Coming home, baby, now.
You don't know what I'm going through.
I'm coming home, I know I'm overdue.
Since you went away.
Expect me any day now real soon. I'm coming home.
Come on home.
Coming home, baby, now.
You know I'm praying every night.
And everything is gonna be fine.
Please come on.
Coming home, baby, now.
I want to feel you hold me tight.
Expect to see me now anytime.
When I'm in your arms.
When you're in my arms, I'll be fine. I'm coming home.
Come on home.
I'm coming home, baby, now.
You know I'm counting every day.
I'm coming home now, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Use your phone.
I'm coming home, baby, now.
And baby, let me hear you say.
I'm coming home, you hearing what I say.
That you're coming home.
And I never will go away. I'm coming home. Coming home, baby, now.
You know I'm waiting at the door.
They can't hold me back now, no more.
All alone.
I'm pressing on, baby, now.
And pacing up and down the floor.
Oh, hear me holler and hear me roar.
Say you'll be with me.
Gonna be with you evermore. I'm coming home.
Come on home.
I'm coming home, baby, now.
Oh, baby, say you're coming home.
That's what I say I'm coming home.
Something's wrong.
The road is long, baby, now.
You ought to either ride or phone.
I'm coming home and never more to roam.
Baby, tell me you.
Baby, I'm for sure coming home. I'm coming home.
Come on home.
I'm coming home, baby, now.
Come on home.
I'm coming home, baby, now.
Come on home.
I'm coming home, baby, now. Coming home, baby.